Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become the stepping stones to growth and clarity. I'm your host, Ezekiel Iferia, and today's guest is Dr. Lizette Warner, a neuroscientist and executive coach who helps leaders accelerate their careers without burning out. But before she built her smart rewiring method, she lived through her own profound professional crisis, hitting a wall of stress as a chief science officer and watching her entire global organization get dismantled overnight. She is here to share how that system failure became the catalyst for a new way of working, proving that achievement without sustainability isn't success at all. So, Dr. Lizette, it's wonderful to have you on FailCraft today.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here.
All right, let's dive in. We last time we talked about the science before, but today I want to go deeper into your personal journey. So you described hitting a wall of stress as a C-suite executive, experiencing sleepless nights, health struggles, and then watching the global organization you were part of get dismantled overnight. So can you take us back to that specific season of collapse in your life? So what did the moment feel like for you?
Yeah, the moment, gosh, it was like a bubble bursting, right? You make so many friends at work, and then even beyond that, you're together. Especially, we had created a high performing team, so we were marching forward with initiatives, with products that we were very much aligned with and had our heart and soul into. So it really felt it was crushing. It was really crushing. And that took a lot of us by surprise. And it was just a really low moment for not just myself, but everyone in the department. Like, one, we were mourning all the work that we had done. And when your whole department is shut down, everything that you're doing is impacted, right? And so it felt very crushing and defeating that all the things that we had been working on together as a team was just taken out from under us. And it it felt like a loss and kind of a loss of community as well at that time. We were a large group, and we knew each other very well, and we were very committed towards marching forward with, with the objectives that we had in mind. And then when that was removed, it can be a bit crushing, not so much for the work, but then also the people. You become aware of all of a sudden all of these connections that you've made. Everyone is now going in different directions. And so the other thing that was also present at that time was just this mentality by the executive team of just digging in and supporting our people through the transition.
All right. So, how did you begin to rewire your own life from that low point?
Yeah, so it involved a bit of mourning. So watching everyone watching everyone and making sure that everyone else had a place to land, that that became our new mission. So as an executive team, that became our mission of making sure that everyone had a landing spot, some place to go so that their future was secure. And then beyond that, it was really this mourning period that I think I was in it for, gosh, probably a year, 9 months, something like that. It really felt like a loss because, like I said, it wasn't just the loss of the work that we were doing, it was the loss of the community that we had built. When you get to a place where you build a high performing team, you make very deep and strong connections because you're synced up together. You're in the same, you're navigating that same universe. You're on the same trajectory. And so losing that it was a bit of a mourning. And then that actually led to me taking a sabbatical from work and what I was doing. I couldn't continue in what I was doing because I had lost my passion for it. I had lost at any sort of desire of working in that space. And so I took a break. I took a break. And because I was already coaching and I had a background in biomedical science and I was coaching sometimes inside of the company and outside of the company, that ended up being a stepping stone for me of what I walked away from and into. And so that's how I dealt with it, myself.
All right, all right. Lizette, as a C-suite executive, when you were going through stress, so you mentioned that your career no longer felt fulfilling during that stress. So how hard was it to admit that to yourself when you had reached such a high level of success on paper?
Yeah, it was at that moment as well when our unit was disbanded, we were then absorbed into a different part of the business. And so as part of that step, I took a different role. And so I was initially it was I guess it was a demotion, if you call it that. It was a different role for me. And I don't know exactly how um I don't know exactly how I ended up going or getting through all of that. I just know, it was one day at a time, and then I was kinda seeing the writing on the wall within myself, not writing on the wall in the company. I mean, there were other things going on in the company, but you start to see and notice in yourself the writing on the wall of, "Is this the right place for me?" And so I was asking myself those sorts of questions, and every day it was this internal struggle or internal dialogue every day that I was having of, "Oh, is this what you wanna do? Is this really what you wanna do with your next chapter?"
Hmm.
And every day it there was a question. And then it was coming to the point of, I don't think I can do this anymore. And so then if I don't do this, then what else? Fortunately, I had something else that I was doing at the time. And so that was a natural progression for me. Yeah.
All right, Lizette. So you have this quote on your I read across the line where you wrote achievement without sustainability is a system failure, and I find it pretty interesting. So for you, what was the most unsustainable habit you personally had to break or learn during your own recovery?
Yeah, so for it was interesting. I never realized how much stress I was in until I was actually able to measure it. I'm the type of personality that I'm extraordinarily resilient and I can go through a tough meeting, a tough time, and whereas other people may need to take a break, I'm able to go, okay, all right, next, sort of let's work on the next thing. And so I had to teach myself to observe the really tiny warning signs in my system. And I had to kind of amplify that sound so that I could hear it because if you're highly resilient, you can go through quite a bit, but it takes a toll on your system. And so that's what's not sustainable is continually taxing your system. So for those of us who are highly resilient, it's super important that we tune into the small signals that tell us that, this would be a good place to take a break or this was more stressful for your system than you actually realized it. And I really didn't know Ezekiel until I was measuring it and using some of the diagnostic tools that we use at TLC, but also when I was measuring it and really observing, wow, I was in high stress when I was giving a podcast or giving a presentation. And it really shocked me because I didn't feel like I was in stress. So when you talk about sustainability and what is not sustainable and how do you recognize it? You first have to get down to basics and tune into and maybe sometimes get a diagnostic like you would for your car or, anything else, right? You go and you run tests and sometimes it'll tell you things. Sometimes, the car's knocking and you'll know, okay, I got to take it to to the shop and have somebody take a look at it. And sometimes it's running fine and you have no idea. Well, it's helpful for us to kind of get those diagnostics on ourselves so that we can know, is this something that I really need to pay attention to? And so
All
that's
right.
kind of what it was for me.
Yeah, great one. Great response there, Lizette. So I'd like to know, how did your background in neuroscience help you navigate your own burnout? And did you treat your own brain like a patient you needed to heal?
Yeah, interesting. At the time, I didn't know that my brain needed to heal, that I needed to heal. I think I discovered that through the process, and I think a lot of people who leave industry, I'm finding very similar patterns, right? They get away from whatever it was that they were doing, and then they found their own business or are doing their own thing, and they're realizing when you step away that, this is you're able to kind of make decisions of, well, I'd like to do this today, or maybe I don't want to do that today. And so I don't do it. And so they're, really responsive to yourself. So to answer that, I don't think I knew at the time that I needed healing. I needed activity and creativity. And so that's what I did and that's what I pursued. And in that process, I was able to launch a business and coach additional people. And so that coaching in and of itself it's a helping profession. So when you've amassed so much knowledge in your career, you're able to help others. And in helping others, you help yourself. So it was kind of during the process of me, and you help others with the problems that you yourself had. And so because it makes you an expert, having gone through some of the things that you go through, when you help someone else, you're also helping yourself. So giving is such a good gift for both the receiver and the one who's giving, because you get something back in that.
Okay, really fantastic response there. So, Lizette, you have this method you call the smart rewiring method. Could you just give us an overview of what it is? I think there might be somebody who needs to hear about it.
Yeah. So smart rewiring is what we term, whenever all these things that I was talking about earlier, recognizing and making sure that what you're doing is sustainable, that you yourself are operating in a way that, you want to be here around for not just yourself and whatever it is that you're doing, and for what you're meant to do while you're on this planet, but you're also on that mission to give back to others. And so oftentimes we build up really poor habits where we don't take care of ourselves. And in the end, that hurts us. It will show up in disease and things like that
Hmm.
later on down in our career. It maybe doesn't show up first thing because when you're young, you're a little bit more resilient. Again, that resilient topic that I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
you're a little bit more resilient, and so you can manage through it, but at some stage, that stress tends to build up and it starts to make an impact on you. So the way smart rewiring works is it's a three-step process. So there's the recognize. You have to recognize, and again, the thing that I said, you have to become aware of some of your triggers, or that you're being stressed, maybe when you don't even know that you're being stressed, right?
Hmm.
So you first have to recognize what's going on. Then you can make a plan to regulate. So regulate your system. So for me, I gave the example of me recognizing that I was stressed when I gave a talk. At the time that I gave the talk, I didn't know that I was stressed, but later on, when I had all the data, I was like, I'm stressed. Okay. So then what I started doing was I started to practice different things to regulate myself, to tell myself, because when you're nervous or when you're excited, it's the same brain paths it's the same neural paths in your brain. So I started telling myself, you're not nervous, you're excited. You're excited to speak to these people. And lo and behold, the data started telling me that now I wasn't in stress anymore. I was more engaged. So it's first recognize, then you regulate, And then the third one is you rewire. You start to practice those habits more and more. And it's not just a matter of learning what it is that maybe set me off, or learning that I need to think about that this talk is exciting and I'm not nervous. But the rewiring part is really the inside work that we do in coaching. And that is the work of carving out new neural pathways. And that is what takes time. If it was a matter of just learning a topic, we could learn it
Mm.
just by picking up a book. But that's not the problem. The problem is we've learned lifetime habits that have to be carved out, and a new lifetime habit that has to be carved in, and that takes time.
All right, Lizette. So for the executive listening right now who is waking up with those sleepless nights and feels like their own system failure is imminent. So what is the first science-backed step they can take today to stop the spiral?
Yeah, just even recognizing that's happening is a first. I mean, first I would say congratulations. I was speaking to somebody yesterday about, being in the Crucible. The thing that I went through, while I wouldn't recommend it for anyone, it was a great growing and learning experience for me. So looking back on it now, I can appreciate it for what it was, and I can appreciate what I had gone through, the relationships that I developed. But moving beyond that and helping somebody else in that, it would be first recognize that you see this, and you're recognizing in yourself, and maybe there's something in there that you can be grateful for. You know, it can stink to be in that situation. Like, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, what I went through. But I can look back on it and I can be really grateful for all of the relationships, because they're still there. A lot of those relationships are still there and we still communicate. So, what I would say is try and find a moment of gratitude in that point, and also congratulate yourself for recognizing that, I'm in this spot. Maybe I'm in a low part of my life, but you know what? It's a season, and seasons don't last forever. And while you may not know what's your next step, you know where you are currently, and you can make plans. If you look back on your life, on all of the challenges you've overcome, on all of the things that you've accomplished, and you look back in your rearview mirror, we forget to turn around and look at all of the amazing things, all of the amazing people, all of the wonderful things we've done in our life. And when we're in a low spot, we kind of think like, oh, this is my lowest low, but you might have had a lower low in your past. So turning around and looking in your rearview mirror to go, oh, what were my lows, can give you a sense of appreciation and perspective that this too shall pass. Maybe you're not in a good spot, but it will pass.
All right. So, Lizette, I haven't come this far in life from all you've gone through, all you've achieved, the setbacks, failures, the success so far. I'd like to know, what does being successful truly mean to you now?
Yeah. I used to think success was a title, it was maybe a certain amount of pay, but success is joy. It's living with joy and gratitude, and recognizing that today's a new day. Anything can happen. My next step might be the very next thing that propels me even further. And we just don't know. We just never know what that next step is, right? Because we're one moment, I used to say when I was working, right? I'm 2 weeks away from being unemployed. But in actuality, I am one moment away from phenomenal success, right? Each of us are one moment away from phenomenal success. And what does that phenomenal success look like for you? I don't know. For me, it's having joy and gratitude of all of the adventures that I've been on, being able to have a family and loving my family, them loving me back. I mean, there's joy and gratitude in that. It's very, in the end, it's very simple. If I were to say, that the gratitude that I have in my heart, the title would be mom, right? The thing that I aspired to that I never knew was mom. And that's fulfilling for me. Even though my kids aren't little anymore, they've grown, but now I can see all of the hard work that we put in raising the kids. It's paid off. And so I'm very proud of that.
All right, fantastic response. So finally, Lizette, for our listeners who want to go take your leadership state check assessment or learn more about smart rewiring. So where is the best place for them to go? Or perhaps connect with you or contact you?
Yeah, so I would tell people, I'm on LinkedIn at Lizette Warner, and it's just one long word, Lizette Warner. I'm also at Trust and Leadership. And so we do two things, well, three things at Trust and Leadership. So one is we help people with the smart rewiring by giving them essentially a blueprint. And I feel like a blueprint is something that every person needs. Like, I want to have the blueprint of me so that I know exactly what my next moves are. So we do a blueprint for folks. We also have a monthly conversation that people can join us for, where we talk about the how to accelerate your career.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that we do is coaching. So yeah, but you can find me on LinkedIn or at trustandleadership.com.
All right, Lizette. This has been such a powerful conversation, and I'm indeed excited to have you on FailCraft today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.